The Sky This Month, with your host, Dave McDonald.
Hi, welcome to The Sky This Month. We're talking about February and the very beginnings of March. My name's Dave McDonald and I am your host. This is an exciting month we have going on. February is the 90th anniversary of the discovery of the planet Pluto. So that's what you see behind me, and I thought we might just bring that image full screen so you can see one of the best images of the planet Pluto as the New Horizons mission approached Pluto and was able to take this full circle image of Pluto in that heart-shaped region, because February, of course, is Valentine's month on February 14th. You see that heart-shaped area towards the lower left is called Tombaugh Regio, after Clyde Tombaugh, who was the discoverer of Pluto. So more about Pluto and the anniversary of the discovery of Pluto in the show in just a little bit. A few things going on in the night sky. First off, Venus is the star, if you will, of the show in the evening. You cannot miss blazing Venus, starting at a magnitude -4 for the month of February and working its way towards a magnitude -4.3. It is among the stars of Pisces, and Venus shines 500 times brighter than the brightest stars in the constellation of Pisces. You cannot miss Venus in the western sky after sunset until 8:30 or so in the evening. And I'm going to be showing you a few more interesting conjunctions with Venus later on towards the end of the show. Then the morning sky, the morning is becoming very, very interesting, because now we have Mars rising. We have, and Mars is about a 1.6 magnitude. It's showing about a 5.2 second of arc disk. So it's a discernible disk through a telescope, but at the moment, because of its size and distance, it's pretty featureless in terms of looking at it. And then Jupiter is always a thrill to look at, shining at a magnitude -1.9. And you'll be able to see the cloud bands through a small telescope and the 4 Galilean moons of Jupiter. And then Saturn rises about 40 minutes or so after Jupiter rises in the morning sky at a magnitude 0.6. So pretty bright. So the morning sky is beautiful, and I will also be talking about and showing you towards the end of the show some places where the moon is going to show up, particularly on February 18th, 19th, and 20th. In the morning, you want to keep your eye on the moon as it moves among the planets Mars and Jupiter and Saturn the early morning before sunrise of February 18, 19, and 20. And I'm also going to be talking about the winter hexagon, how you can use Orion, the constellation of Orion, to find those things. So more about that towards the end of the show. I also want to mention to you the McAuliffe Shepherd Discovery Center. We have a special program every Friday night. And on this slide, you can see that on March 6th, we are having a special program on why ice storms aren't cool. That's Friday, March 6th. The doors open at 6:30. The presentation begins at 7. And I'm just going to read it as you can follow along. Although ice storms are related to climate change and expected to become more severe in our region, they are unpredictable and difficult to study. Join Lindsay Rustad of Hubbard Brook Experimental Forest to learn about their human-made ice storms and the impacts of these powerful and curiously aesthetic extreme weather events on our region. So don't forget, every first Friday of every month is a special program at the McAuliffe Shepherd Discovery Center in Concord. Take exit 15E off of Interstate 93. So as I mentioned, We're celebrating the 90th anniversary of the discovery of planet Pluto by Clyde Tombaugh. It was February 18th, 1930, when the confirmation of the discovery of what was originally called Planet X, looking for the ninth planet. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the history of Pluto, how it was discovered, and some of the more recent findings, because as the New Horizons spacecraft passed Pluto and took all kinds of scientific information in 2015, we're still unraveling the data and making more discoveries all the time. So just recently, earlier this month, we had some more information come down relative to Pluto. So without any further ado, let's get into our chat about planet Pluto. Well, those are some neat things that are happening in the night sky. And we just readjusted the image of Pluto behind me a little bit and such. And so now it's time to start talking about the 90th anniversary of the discovery of Pluto. Hope you enjoy these slides. So Pluto was discovered February 18th in 1930. Hard to believe, it's been 90 years. All right, next we see that Pluto was its discovery is related to the discovery of Neptune. So let's take a peek at what it was involved there. Neptune was discovered in 1846 by Urbain Le Verrier. Analysis of Uranus's orbit indicated Neptune's presence, and so the exciting thing is that this is the first planet that was discovered by mathematics, and it confirmed Newton's laws of gravitation, which is also pretty awesome. So Neptune was the last planet visited by the Voyagers on August 25th, 1989. So we just had last summer the 30th anniversary of that taking place. So when Voyager 2 left the solar system in 1989, Pluto is out there, planet number 9, and it has not been discovered. It has been discovered, hasn't been visited. And so let's look next at the reason that we found Pluto was we had the observations of Neptune showed that something was perturbing its orbit. So just as we mathematically discovered Neptune, in 1906, the Lowell Observatory began a search for Planet X because something was affecting Neptune. And then Clyde Tombaugh discovered Pluto in 1930 using what's called a blink comparator that you can see there. So on the left, there's Clyde going to work at the Lowell Observatory, and on the right, you see Clyde Tombaugh at the blink comparator. Now, the blink comparator was an instrument that used 2 photographic plates. So this is long before digital photography, and even film photography was not used. They were glass plates. And he would put these glass plates in the machine, and what would happen is he was able to go from A to B and notice the movement. So let's look at this next image, and we see that on January 23rd, 1930, there's this object where the arrow is located. And if we go to the next image, which is 6 days later on January 29th, perhaps you can see that object move. When he does this real quickly, he can see what is moving. But remember, he looked through a ton of photographic plates to be able to see a movement between one night and 5 or 6 nights later. So let's go back and see it one more time. So the background stars, trust me, are all in the same place. The dimensions of the slide are just a tad off. But you see that dot where the arrow is, and now we go forward, and you can see it moved. And that is what Clyde saw, shared it with his astronomical buddies, with his boss, Percival Lowell, and it wasn't long before it was confirmed, yeah, that is it. That is Planet X. So that's really, really kind of neat. And one of the neat things that is happening during the weekend, February 15th, is the Saturday. And what's happening is a celebration of the 90th anniversary of Pluto. The actual date, again, is February 18th. Okay, so next slide we see it's announced. It was discovered February 18th, but it was announced to the world in March, and actually on March 14th. March 14th is a couple things. One, it was Percival Lowell's birthday, which is kind of cool. And then it is also the anniversary of the discovery of the planet Uranus, which was discovered on March 14th. And so the papers went crazy in March about the discovery of planet X, now Pluto. So you can see here kind of the way that the planets are set up, and the orbit of Pluto is inclined differently than the others. It's off by about 17 degrees, which caused it some to raise an eyebrow, whether it was formed with the rest of the solar system or was it a captured object. More about that another time. This next slide shows Clyde at 89 with his home-built telescope, and at one point the Smithsonian asked if they could have his telescope for the Smithsonian Institution, and he replied, "No, I'm still using it." And this picture was taken in 1996 by my buddy Kelly Beatty. Next, we see the image of the god of the underworld, the Greek god of wealth, and the symbol for Pluto is a capital P with an L, first two letters of Pluto, also the initials of Percival Lowell, whom Clyde would like to have named the planet after. Next, you see a picture of me and Alan Stern, who I have come to know and appreciate and admire for his stick-to-itiveness here. As I mentioned, the planet Neptune was last visited in August 25th of 1989, and Alan Stern was like, "Hey, I want to be the one to visit planet Pluto, number 9 out there." And so, to his amazing credit, he put together a team of people that bought in on this, and they said, "Yeah, we are going to send a spacecraft to Pluto." Took a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of work with NASA, proposals, money, all these details came together, and then it happened. So let's look at the next slide. So at the moment, the best views we had of Pluto from the Hubble Space Telescope are what you see on this slide. And you can see there's not much detail there whatsoever as seen from the Hubble Space Telescope, which is a pretty powerful instrument. But Alan wanted to go and visit, and so here, 76 years after Pluto's discovery, New Horizons launches on January 19, 2006. 10 years and 3 billion miles. You see a photo of the spacecraft in the middle there, and it's going to be arriving at Pluto on July 14th, 2015. Here's some of the instruments, the 7 major instruments that are on the New Horizons spacecraft, along with the RTG, which is the thermonuclear reactor that provides the power. Solar panels are not going to work. And of course, we have a big antenna to beam information to and receive information from Earth. Lori is the workhorse camera, along with Ralph. Lori is black and white, high resolution. Ralph is a little lower resolution, but also can do color, which is nice. So in the upper left, you see leaving Earth, the launch going past Jupiter, getting a gravity assist to Pluto on July 2015, and then it went on to Ultima Thule, which is now called Arrokoth. And in the bottom right, you can see a different viewpoint of how the New Horizons mission on that red trajectory went through the Pluto system. We're going to get back to that one in just a little bit. Okay? Then next, what did we see? Well, let's take a look. Amazing things. There are mountains, 14,000 feet tall. There are flat areas indicating resurfacing, perhaps. These mountains are mostly of nitrogen ice. In the bottom left, you can see what looks like a river going on. Pluto, it turns out to be a very, very active place, thinking that it has an underground ocean. The top left is the picture of the New Horizons that the New Horizons spacecraft took approaching Pluto. You see that heart-shaped region called Tombaugh Regio is also reflected in the bottom right of that larger image. And you can see that heart-shaped Tombaugh Regio is outlined there, and Sputnik Planum is the flatter area. And if you look at the image on the lower right, you see Sputnik Planum to the right, and then as we move from right to left on that bottom image, you see we run into mountains. And it's just an amazing variety of geological formations there on Pluto. We have troughs, we have mountains, we have pitted surfaces, hills. It's really amazing the variety that we have. And this is one of my favorite photographs. You can see in the upper left, again, that red trajectory of Pluto. See where it crosses that kind of yellow goldish rays, which is when Pluto intersects the light path of the sun. And we took this image where you can see that blue haze all around. That's the atmosphere of Pluto. Pluto is a very active place. Just to mention, is Pluto a planet? Well, you want to know something? It is, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. I'm going to have Alan Stern, the principal investigator of the New Horizons mission, is going to address that very issue. So here's Dr. Alan Stern, and I was at a press conference where Dr. Stern was asked the question, will there be another vote for Pluto to bring Pluto back to planethood? And I think you'll be very intrigued with this response that he made to the media. Let's watch and listen.
I'm not sure where to start. Science just doesn't work the way that you're suggesting. Let me start that way. Science just doesn't work by voting. We could have a bunch of people, a bunch of PhDs get in a room and vote that we only have 8 elements in the periodic table, and it wouldn't make it so, right? Really, science works by individual scientists making up their minds. There's a brilliant paper by Phil Metzger that was published this year showing he did a literature search and looked at scientific papers since the IAU vote, and he couldn't find any papers, not a minority of them. He couldn't find any papers that use the IAU definition except papers that are about the IAU definition. That scientists have more or less 100% ignored it. And the only people that are really paying attention to it are the press. And I think you guys need to wrap your heads around the fact that planetary scientists consider these objects planets, almost to a person. And there's never going to be another vote because votes don't make sense in science. And the fact that the literature is telling us that scientists ignore it is a headline story you should be writing. Hey, this is Alan Stern, PI of the New Horizons mission to Pluto and the Kuiper Belt, telling you, Belmont Astronomy Club, you can take this to the bank. Pluto's a planet, always was, and always will be.
Hi, Dave McDonald with the Sky This Month. I'm here with Helene, who is the project manager for New Horizons. Welcome to our show, Helene.
Oh, thank you.
And I know it's been a few years now since we've passed Pluto, but is there an opinion out there on the status of Pluto in terms of its planethood?
Well, the New Horizons team will certainly tell you that Pluto is a planet.
That's all we need to know. Thank you. This is Alice Bowman, who is the missions operation manager for the New Horizons mission, who has visited Pluto in 2015 and now just passed Ultima Thule. Alice, thanks so much for joining us.
Sure. I'm happy to be here.
My astronomy club back at Belmont High School in New Hampshire wants me to ask as many New Horizons team members as I can your thoughts, your opinion as a person or as a team on the planethood status of Pluto.
So, when I look at Pluto, it looks very much like Earth to me. It has an atmosphere, it has mountains, it has glaciers, It has an underground ocean, we think. It has some compositional things going on in the atmosphere. So, and when I was growing up, I learned Pluto was the 9th planet. And so for me, Pluto is a planet.
Well said.
So there you have it. And you saw just also a little clip of him talking to my astronomy club at Belmont High School. Here you see the New Horizons team. And the New Horizons team is all giving the Pluto salute, which you saw Alan giving momentarily. And so the Pluto salute, 9. Everyone on the New Horizons team will tell you Pluto is a planet. And that wraps that up. Happy anniversary, happiest 90th anniversary on your discovery, Pluto. So I hope you enjoyed that presentation for the 90th anniversary of Pluto. Now let's take a look of what's going on in the night sky the end of February and the beginning of March. Well, I hope you enjoyed that information about Pluto and its 90th anniversary discovery, again, February 18th by Clyde Tombaugh. So let's talk a little bit about what you can see in the night sky in February and just the beginning of March. So as I mentioned, all month Venus is, so to speak, the star of the show, shining very brightly, and we're looking at Venus here, 6:30, which is not that long after sunset. And the reason I chose 6:30 was we still have the remnants of the square of Pegasus shining right here. So you can see the square of Pegasus, the 4 stars, down here, 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 and here are the 4 stars of the square of Pegasus. Venus is hanging out. And these are the stars of Pisces. And notice we have the planet Uranus, not very far away from Venus. And Uranus is too faint to see with the unaided eye. With the binoculars, you can see it with really dark skies and very, very clear. They tell me you can see it naked eye, but I've never seen it. But over time, the fact of the matter is that Uranus is going to be getting lower towards the sun, and Venus is going to be rising till the second week in March. It reaches a point we call greatest eastern elongation, when it will be at its highest and greatest distance in terms of degrees away from the sun. So enjoy Venus every evening, and not too long after sunset, when it starts to get dark, you can also enjoy the square of Pegasus. Next, I want to take us to the morning sky, and this is the morning of February 18th, and February 19th. And again, we are getting close to sunrise. You can see the lightness in the sky. And I wanted to show you that Saturn is rising, so that's why we're getting close to sunrise. The sun is going to be rising in about 45 minutes after Saturn rises. But during those days or early mornings of the 18th, 19th, and 20th, the moon is going to be interacting with these planets. So you want to keep your eye out. First, on the 18th, the moon will be around the planet Mars. And the further west you are, if anybody's watching towards the west coast, and I know we have some viewers in California and Washington State, that the moon is actually going to be occulting. That means moving in front of the planet Mars, which is kind of neat to see a planet disappear behind the moon. Really very, very, very cool. And that's the 18th. And then the 19th, the moon slides down into a position hanging out near Jupiter. And then on the 20th, the moon will be further down towards the planet Saturn. So 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th in the morning are going to be great mornings. Get your camera out, take some good photos. But in terms of the planets themselves, apart from the moon, they're going to be out all month and moving into March as well. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about what's hanging out near Mars. So this next image is an image of what we call the Lagoon Nebula. And the Lagoon Nebula is located to the lower right of Mars. And if we could have that image of the Lagoon Nebula. There we are. And it's very, very pretty, but don't be disappointed when you look through a telescope, because you're not going to see these colors. These colors are time photography. that brings out the color. And this is, as I said, the Lagoon Nebula, which is a little to the lower right of Mars. And then we have the Trifid Nebula, which is to the upper left of Mars. And when I see the word Trifid, T-R-I, I kind of see like the three major parts here of this pinkish area. And then off to the right, there's this bluish area, which is really very beautiful. But again, in a small telescope, you'll be able to see the nebula, which is very cool in itself, but you're not going to see the vibrant colors there without taking some time exposures, which is also positive. That's a discussion for another time. Okay, and this next image just kind of shows the relationship of them. Mars is in the middle here, and again, to the upper left is where the Trifid Nebula is located, and then down to the bottom right is where the Lagoon Nebula is located, just to give you an idea. And this is March 17th when this arrangement happens. And lastly, I want to show you how to find Orion. Very easy in the southern sky to be able to find the constellation of Orion. You are familiar with the three belt stars. And we have what's called the winter hexagon. The upper left star, as we look at Orion, is a star called Betelgeuse, which is a red giant star. Dimmer than usual. That's another story for another time. It's unusually dim. You could maybe look that up in the news or Earth Sky website. Then the bottom right star is Rigel. It's a very bright blue-white star at a magnitude of 0. Now, if we follow the belt stars up to the right, we come to Aldebaran. Aldebaran is an orange star. And if we keep on going up, we're going to come to a star called Capella, which is very much like our sun. It's a G2 star, and it's yellow in color. And then this is March 2nd, so you see the moon is in the area. The moon is always on the move. It moves about 13 degrees from day to day, or it rises about 50 minutes later from day to day. And so on March 2nd, the moon is hanging out near Aldebaran, and that's just, again, kind of a nice picture. Then, as we come above Orion, we have the stars Castor and Pollux, which are the twin stars. We move over to Procyon, which is the little dog star, and then down to Sirius, which is the brightest star in the night sky. It's the big dog star. Procyon is the little dog star. Sirius is the big dog star, shining at a magnitude negative 1.44. And then back to Rigel. That completes what we call the winter hexagon. So some easy stars and constellations to see using Orion as a place to start. So I hope that you enjoyed the show, and happy anniversary, happy 90th anniversary to Pluto. And don't forget to visit the McAuliffe Shepherd Discovery Center Friday night, March 6th. And we'll see you next month. I'm Dave McDonald.